What evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows. So, the past couple days, I went to the comic book store to basically pick up some more comics, obviously. And long story short, there was nothing on the new shelves that I found all that interesting, and the few issues that I did find interesting, I had already read. So I decided to check out the bargain bin, and I came across this issue right here, The Shadow, along with a couple of other issues from some other series. By the way, Hack and Slash, fucking awesome. I originally discovered it when I was doing the review for the Ash versus the Army of Darkness, and they were advertising Ash versus Hack and Slash, and I decided to read one of the issues and instantly fell in love. The series is awesome. I wish I could get the whole collection. Also picked up some Black Bat, which I'll get into a little bit later. But right now, this is going to be The Shadow. This is Dynamite's issue number 9. For those of you guys who don't know who The Shadow is, The Shadow was a very famous pulp character from the 1930s. He originally started as a narrator for this radio program called Detective Story Hour, and the people liked the character and the voice so much that they demanded, to make an actual series out of him. So Walter B. Gibson is the one that mostly fleshed out the Shadow character. And the Shadow is Lamont Cranston. He's a wealthy young man about town. Basically, picture Bruce Wayne, and you kind of get the idea. So he's like a billionaire by day and a crime-fighting superhero by night. He usually, this is basically his outfit. So he has the hat, the long scarf, the trench coat, and then his main weapon is the dual Browning .45 pistols. He also has some other abilities. Other than hand-to-hand combat, and he's a master of stealth, master of disguise. In some issues, he has this. Basically, it's almost like this magic ability to hypnotize people and like alter their thoughts and their perception. So he can it's almost like the Jedi mind trick, basically. The Shadow was like so popular back in the 30s and 40s that it had his own radio program. He had film serials. He had comic books. There was a bunch of other stuff. But each medium kind of gives him separate powers. But those are the basic main ones. Is master of... he's a skilled marksman, master of stealth, master of disguise, and then the Jedi mind trick kind of thing are usually the abilities that everyone kind of gives him. So yeah, you'll probably, as I'm going through this, and I plan on going through the new Shadow series that comes out in August, you'll be seeing a lot of Batman similarities between the two, but that's just because Batman is pretty much a ripoff of the Shadow. The whole wealthy businessman during the day, superhero by night, a lot of his trademark stuff. The Shadow in the books, his coat, Gibson describes it as bat wings. He also has the nickname of the Dark Knights. Batman is basically nothing more than a ripoff of the Shadow and Black Bat. Not to say this is a knock on Batman, but, just so you know, the Shadow is the original. So, getting into this, here are the writers, the art, colors. The art in this is really good. The writing is, it's pretty good as well. I really enjoy this issue. So we start off with George Orwell, who you guys might be familiar with. He's the writer for Animal Farm, 1984. He actually plays a somewhat important part in this issue. And then he's talking to Lamont Cranston. And here we get a little bit of Lamont, the Shadow's hypnotic abilities. This one is pretty straightforward. He's just kind of applying drinks on George Orwell and getting him to talk. But he also uses a little bit of persuasion. That's Lamont's basically greatest weapon, is that he can persuade information out of you without even realizing it. And they're basically discussing the Spanish Civil War. and how George Orwell was expecting there to be basically like good guys versus bad guys, but instead found a snake pit of politics, backstabbing, and petty factions all jockeying for power. And George Lamont learns from George Orwell that there's like some kind of gun smuggling going on, and Lamont thinks that there's actually more to this, situation than just the gun smuggling. Afterwards, we see him talking to Miles Crofton, who is Lamont's. Basically, he's his pilot. He's his launch pad to Lamont's Darkwing Duck. Usually, he pilots the Lamont's auto gyro, but in this, he kind of acts as just a basic taxi driver / pilot. So here we go. We see the Shadow in action. New York, Paris, Barcelona. On the surface, they each have a distinct personality, but their sinister underbellies all spring from the same dark alchemy. Socialism, fascism, democracy, doesn't matter. Crime trumps them all. Basically, we see Lamont Cranston doing what he does best, taking out the bad guys, squeezing information out of them. I mean, this is basically like a scene direct from Batman. So he finds this location and discovers the Black Sparrow, Esmeralda. I am not all that familiar with her. I think she was created just for this comic book series because of all the books and the radio dramas that I've read, I have never once heard of her. So I think she's a comic book original. But yeah, her name is Esmeralda, otherwise known as the Black Sparrow. And Lamont basically has some kind of relationship with her in the past. I believe, I haven't read any of the previous issues to this series, but from what I've gathered and from what the information they gave me here, she's basically acting as Lamont's Catwoman, almost. So she's basically doing this gun deal with this mafioso group, and they pretty much think that the weapons aren't the best quality and decide to renegotiate. Basically, they'll let the Black Sparrow and her little group leave with their lives. So they're basically trying to weasel out of the deal. But of course, Black Sparrow isn't going to have any of this. She basically just beats the shit out of them, butchers them without any issues whatsoever. It shows how badass she is, guns them all down. Then we see the Shadow. He's watching as they're smuggling the guns back into their cars, and now they gotta, find a new circulation to get the guns in. So then we see Lamont getting a ride from Miles as they track down the truck to this airfield. Here we see another thing with Lamont, where using his hypnotic power, so he basically tells this guy to come here, and we see his eyes kind of glow. They kind of explain his hypnotic powers as magic. He was trained in these arts. So there's this somewhat supernatural ability, but yeah, the guard follows him without question, and then we see Miles basically hijack this plane, and then the very next page we get ourselves a Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade dogfight, pretty awesome. So as they're tracking down this one plane, they end up getting shot, and then we get our little dogfight going. And Lamont, the Shadow, basically pulls off this badass move where he walks on the wing, tells Miles to get close to the plane that they're tracking, and he basically just jumps on board without a parachute or anything like that, because he's a Shadow and he's badass that way. Shadow gets in, and then he meets up with Esmeralda, and they have a short little fight. Esmeralda kind of gets the better of him. The excuse that they give is that the Shadow, you've blunted your reflexes fighting sluggish henchmen. So basically, the Shadow hasn't been fighting A-class baddies, so his skills have kind of diminished a little bit. And that's how they kind of explain it. Then we get some promo. Green Hornet. Green Hornet's pretty cool. I've never really got into him as much as I did some of the other pulp heroes, though. So then, we get a little bit of the fight, and during the fight, the Shadow says, "I think you already know what I'm made of." So Esmeralda, recognizes that voice, which I find this part kind of funny because, she knocked his hat off, so she can see clearly more than half his face. The only thing she can't really see is his mouth and his chin, and she still can't discover him. And from what we've gathered, they've slept together. Like, they've been intimate. So, I mean, she doesn't, like, recognize him in any way. But, I mean, you know, then again, the whole city of Metropolis doesn't even know who the hell Superman is, despite the fact that, it's just, Clark Kent is just basically wearing, glasses and that's it. But whatever. So she, basically pulls the wheel, causing the, plane to kind of turn to the side and knock, Lamont out. Of course, Miles comes to the rescue, catches, the Shadow, and they crash into a haystack to basically blunt their fall. And surprise, surprise, they get picked up by George Orwell, who is taking them to this castle. And at the castle, we discover the Black Sparrow is actually her boss is actually the owner of the castle, and he's not too happy with Esmeralda because the Shadow is in Spain, and he doesn't want the Shadow meddling with his affairs. And then we discovered that his name is El Rey. I think he was created specifically for this comic book, just like Esmeralda, because none of them are ringing any bells. I don't think any of them are from any of the books or any of the radio serials. I think they were made specifically for this issue. And then we get this right here. This is actually kind of cool. I'm hoping I can find this, because we got Kato, we got Zorro, we got the Green Hornet, we got the Shadow, and then we got the Spider. Like, the Spider is really awesome. Like, he's one of my favorite pulp characters. Shadow is definitely my favorite of all time. The Black Bat is up there too. Green Hornet's kind of cool, but I don't know. Like I said, I've never really got that much into him. The Shadow Year One, that I am most definitely planning on reading at some point. And here are the alternates covers. So I ended up getting cover B because that's the one that they had. There's cover A where we get a scene with him on the airplane wing. That's pretty cool. And we got cover C. This one is actually, I really like. This one has like a lot of the, it has like a throwback feel to the old 1930s books. And there we go. There's the Shadow, issue 9. This was, I believe, from last year. Let me see if I can find it. Nope, this is actually from 2013. But it was pretty good. I liked it overall. I wish I could find some of the other issues. I basically picked this up from the bargain bin. Like I said earlier, I couldn't find any new issues that I wanted to read, and the ones that I did, I had already read. So I was just basically scounging through the bargain bin, and I discovered the Shadow, as well as the Hack Slash and the Black Bat. I know that Dynamite is going to be making a new Shadow series starting, I believe, August next month. So I'm definitely going to try to check those out because I fucking love the Shadow. I wish he was more popular today because he really deserves to be. So that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Throughout the video, you'll see cuts here and there, but that's just because I've had my dogs walking around, so I had to cut parts out. Not to mention that I'm recording all this on my phone, and it only records in like a couple of minutes at a time. So there's going to be a lot of cuts. I hope that doesn't bother you guys too much. I might do Hack Slash next. Then again, I'm thinking of saving these for when I get more issues, because at this point in time, I've pretty much read all of the one-shots. I haven't read any of the annuals yet, and that includes the DDP annual as well as Image. So I might wait until then. So Black Bat will most likely be next. I don't know which one. Actually, probably just this one, because this one is issue number 1. So yeah, I'll most likely do Black Bat next. Like I said in the Ash vs. Army of Darkness, I wanted to try something new. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. And till next time, the weed of crime bears bitter fruits. Crime does not pay. The Shadow knows.